Hey everyone, welcome back to another CAD Thinkers video. In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about Fusion 360, specifically giving you an introduction on how to use it. Let's get started. First, go into your preferred web browser and type in Autodesk Fusion 360. And go ahead onto the website here, and now is when you would download it. As many of you here watching are probably students, go ahead and navigate down to this button where it says Download Fusion for free. And this area where it says Fusion for Educational Use. Click on the Unlock Educational Access option, then Fusion. And now, because most of you are students, you would select Student here, Continue. And you would go through this process here to show that you are a student. After that, you'll be able to download the app. So, now that you've downloaded Fusion 360, let's start making projects. First, navigate over to the New Project button and click on it. Now you're making a new folder, and I'm going to title mine CAD Thinkers Tutorials. Every time you make a project, you can save it to these folders that you make, allowing it to be more organized. Anyway, now that we have the folder made, I'm going to click out of that, and we have all this space to make our design. Now, the way that Fusion 360 works is that you first draw things with a sketch in 2D and then extrude it to make it 3D. Therefore, we're first going to have to start off with the sketch. So move over to this Create Sketch button in the top left and click on it. As you can see, it's giving me a selection of 3 different planes that I can work on. And the way I decide which one I want to work on is based on where I would like to draw the cross section of the object that I'm trying to make. So I'm going to try to make this right here, the charging brick of my phone. If I'm going to make this, well, if you'll notice, it's uniform from this direction. So the cross section, I have to make it in this plane right here. That way, if I draw the cross section in this plane, I can extrude it in this direction. So, accordingly, I'm going to click on this plane. So now I have this plane to draw my sketch on. And as you can see, I have all these different tools here that I can use to draw my sketch. What I'm going to do is, if you remember, this is kind of like a rectangle, except the edges are rounded. So I'm going to get the rectangle tool over here, the 2-point rectangle, and select my 2 edges. I'm going to click one point at the origin right here, and then my other point, I can really move it to wherever. Because now, if you'll notice, it gives me these 2 places where I can select the measurements of the edges. I'm already selected on one of the edges, the 40.783 millimeter edge. And let's say I try to make this one 40 millimeters. Boom. Then I can now hit the tab button to get onto the other edge. And I can decide to make this one, let's say, 60 millimeters. Now you can see that I have a rectangle made. Keep in mind that I also could have made this using 4 lines, but it's definitely much easier to just use a rectangle tool. So now I need to make the edges rounded. So now I need to make the corners rounded. So I'm going to go over to the fillet tool right here and click on each corner to make it rounded. So first I'm going to click on this one, and as you can see, it allows me to pick how much of a radius I want there to be on the corner. If I pick a small number like 2 or 1, then it's going to be barely rounded at all. But if I do 100, then it's going to be very much rounded to the point that it's not even on the corner anymore. I'm going to make it simple down to just 5. Great. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the other corners. This one I'm also going to make it 5, and again here, and again here. Another thing that's important to know is reference points. Let's say that I want to get a line and put it in, connected to the center of my rectangle here. I would select on the line tool, and if I go along this edge right here and keep moving my cursor, eventually I get to this point right here, where as you can see, there's a triangle on the screen. What that signifies is that I'm at the middle of this edge. So I can click on that right there. Now, if I want to make it connect to the exact center of my rectangle, there's here's how I could go ahead and do that. If I move along the other edge right here and keep going on it, eventually, again, I'm going to hit that triangle. So that means I'm at the middle of that edge. Now, I'm not going to click on my cursor just yet because this would draw a diagonal line. Instead, I'm going to start moving my mouse towards the middle of the object, where as you can see, it's drawing a blue dotted line from the middle of that edge. And boom. Now I have a line that connects to the middle of my object. And I can also get a line to connect from here to the edge, like so. Now, another thing that's cool to note is that if I can also get my line, I can start it at the center of the rectangle itself. If I move it and I keep going, eventually you're going to see this square right here at the middle. That signifies that at this point I'm at the middle. So I can click on that and boom, go towards the corner, at the middle of the other edges, and do really whatever I want. So that's just an important tool to keep in mind in case you want to start aligning things with the middle of objects. Now, one more tool that I'd like to show you before we move on into making this a 3D object is this tool right here, Sketch Dimension. When I click on that and I go right over here, I can see the dimensions of some lines in the object that might not initially be apparent. Now, if you remember, I initially made this a 40 by 60 rectangle, but then I added curves to the edges, right? So if you want to know the length of the straight part of these edges, then using this alignment tool, just go ahead and click on it. Now, as you can see, it's going to say that it is 30 millimeters long, and that can extend all the way past it. Now, I can similarly do that right here, and again, you'll see that it is 50. Now, there are also some more uses for this tool, but we won't need to cover that in this video. Anyway, now that we're complete with the sketch, I can go ahead here and click the Finish Sketch button. Boom. So, as you can see, when we're finished with the sketch, we get pushed back into the solid plane. And if I want to make this 3D, I'm going to go ahead to this button right here that says Extrude. Clicking on this, you can now see that a blue arrow is going to appear on my object. So if I just move this, what you can see is that it's now becoming 3D. I want to make mine length 80 millimeters. So I'm just going to type 80 and boom, it's 80 millimeters long. And we can see that it's coming along quite nicely and looks very similar to the charging brick that I have right here. But there's just one other feature that I'd like to show you first. Over here it says Fillet. I know you've already seen this in the sketch plane, but you can also do this onto 3D objects as well. I highly recommend that if you're going to make a curve, try to do as many as you can during the sketch phase itself, because that makes it easier. But in case you need to, you can also do this on the solid object as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it and to show you what it would look like on this edge right here. So I'm going to select this edge, and if you'll notice, the radius type that I selected is constant. So I'm going to click on it, and as you can see, it allows me to once again have an arrow, and if I push this inwards, it's going to force that edge to be rounded. Of course, there's a limit to how much I can do, right? If I keep moving inwards, you can see that it's going to say that there's an error. So I have to be limited. I'm going to make mine just 5, as it already was. And I could go around and do the same thing, but at that point, it's no longer going to look like the charger. So one final thing that I would like to show you is this inspect right here, this measure tool. And I click on that, and I select a given point, let's say this corner right here, and that point, I can see the length between these 2 points. That diagonal is 90.13 millimeters, and it should be the same this way as well. So from corner 1 to corner 2 is also 90.13 millimeters. And I can also measure various other lengths using this tool. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope this helped you get a basic understanding of some of the tools that Fusion 360 has to offer. It's a very nice and innovative software, and it's definitely a step up from TinkerCAD. Using this can help you to make a lot more sophisticated designs. And that's going to be it. Really hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video.